Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock and ask that the city clerk read the statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act into the record.
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, with the meeting notice provided to the Hunterdon County Democrat, the Trenton Times, various individuals on the listserv, department heads, the city engineer, and the city attorney. This meeting will be recorded and streamed live using the Zoom meeting platform. The meeting agenda offers the planned action items of the governing board body to the extent known at the time of publication.
Have a roll call, please, Cindy.
Councilwoman Lambert?
Here.
Councilman Sanders will be a minute or two late. Councilman Stegman?
Here.
Council President Taylor?
Here.
Mayor Mel?
Here. Everyone, please rise to the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence and remembrance of those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first on our agenda this evening is the approval of the meeting minutes. I should note the council probably has already noticed this September 1st minutes are not quite ready yet. So we will just be considering the August 18th closed session and voting session minutes. Were there any questions about the minutes?
No, I made my comments in the documents.
All right, may I have a motion to accept the minutes, please?
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. So I would just note that these are routine matters before the council, and they are typically enacted by one motion. If any of the council members would seek a separate discussion of any item, you should, the council member should please make this known now.
I have one question about one of the resolutions,
Yes,
165-22, 2022.
what's your question?
When we reimburse folks, do we cut in order to save paper and minimize the paper use in the city? When we refund these, do we use electronic or do they write a check?
We do not, I don't believe we use any electronic checks. Every check is signed by yours truly and a couple of other people. So we do in fact generate checks even for small amounts like this, and we do incur postage fees.
Okay, right. That's my only question.
All right. So unless there are any other questions about anything on the consent agenda, I'd like someone to please make a motion.
Move.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Next is cannabis application public hearing. This is resolution number 161-2022. This is a resolution in support of the application filed by Baked by the River to open a cannabis micro retail store on Church Street. Are there any questions from the council on this resolution?
Just to clarify, my understanding is that there was an unanticipated change in the address of the business, correct?
That's correct.
So we're basically redoing some things to make sure everything's buttoned up and in alignment. We have a deadline, or the
Yes.
applicant has a deadline. Okay.
Yes, yeah, so, yes, resolution of support is contingent on the applicant going through the planning board process again, getting all the required approvals.
Okay, so I just noticed the second whereas says 1012 Church Street. Oh, that's the
new-
original one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No worries.
Okay, are there any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, if I could have a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next is resolution number 168-2022. This is a resolution of the governing body of the city of Lambertville, the county of Hunterdon, the state of New Jersey, to authorize the cannabis application filed by Baked by the River LLC for approval by the planning board and for approval to the state of New Jersey. This is a public hearing for, sorry, I read the resolution. And I'm going to open the public hearing for resolution number 168-2022. This application is back for the governing body for approval since the site has been church to investors have purchased the buildings. So is there any comment from the council on this? This time I'd like to open it up for public comment. The members of the public who wish to speak. If so, I would just like to note a couple of things about public comment at city council meetings. If you're planning to speak this evening on this particular matter, would you mind raising your hand so I have a sense of how many people might be speaking to this resolution for this matter? Okay. Members of the public should provide comments from the designated podium unless they request flexibility with mobility issues. Required to state their name and address. You have 3 minutes of uninterrupted remarks and or questions from members of the public. No person shall address any specific council member, and the chair or the council members may respond. So there's no one in the room who wishes to speak to this. Is there anyone online?
Just in space.
Okay. Would you do your magic there?
Good evening, Paul Stevens, 39 Corey Street. I just have a question about the process more than anything else. I seem to recall that there was going to be a traffic study related to at least one of these facilities. Has that been done? Did I miss that? If I did, I apologize.
So that was a planning board matter, Paul, and the planning board did not require Baked by the River to engage in a traffic study because it's a micro business. It's a very small footprint in the commercial district. So that was not required. I will just note that the other two applicants that have pending applications before the planning board are required to provide information with the traffic study. So not for this one.
Okay, thank you. But that traffic study then will be presented at a planning board meeting or also later at a council meeting or what?
Happy to talk to you about that kind of offline. It's not germane to this particular matter because the traffic study is not required. So I'm happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So since we have some recent additions to the room, is there anybody who would like to speak on the resolutions that we've just passed in regards to Baked by the River?
That's one.
Oh, sorry, one. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Noted. Anybody else online? Okay, while we're in public comment, I will just note that I did have letters of support for this applicant from the following individuals, all of whom are residents. We can get their addresses if needed for the record. Sean Ellis, Evan Straley, Philomena, Scott Hanks, and Kelly Golding all sent letters of support for this applicant today. So just like that noted on the record, please. Councilman. That's all right. We're just it looks like we're just finishing the public comment period for resolution number 168-2022. So I'd like to have a motion from someone on the council to close the public comment period on this, please.
So moved.
Second, please. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, the motion carries. And now back to the resolution. Are there any questions?
Oh. Premature class. Sorry. Of course.
I say no.
It's harder to say no.
All right. All right. Calm down, everybody, including the mayor. So are there any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution number 161-2022 carries.
Savor the applause. You should all savor the applause.
We should record it.
I get to have a vote for the record. Resolution number 169-2022. This is a resolution to amend resolution number 56-2022 for Union Chill to include the number of licenses permitted by the city of Lambertville. So we note that this application is back before the governing body for approval because the state requested the insertion of the number of licenses permitted in accordance with the ordinance. This is really just kind of a housekeeping thing. We are just by our vote, letting the state know that what the number is for the chemist retailers business in the state. So does anybody, and a statement that this application would not exceed that number, which does not. I would note. Are there any questions from the council about this? I'd like to open this up for public comments. Are there any public comments about this matter? Cindy, is there anybody online?
No.
All right, may I please have a motion to close the public comment period on this?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And now, unless the council has any questions or comments about this resolution, I would ask for a motion.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. At this point, bills list. I'd like to have a motion to approve the bills list for this month. Second. All those in favor of paying the bills this month, please say aye.
Aye.
Where's everybody going?
I know.
They're always paid.
Moving on. Ordinances first. Close the door or something. Not close the door, but just ask them to be quiet. We're not closed session, so. Hey, Paul, I'm sorry, we need to leave a door open. We're not closed session or anything like that. I want to make sure the public knows that. Thank you. All right. Ordinance number 23-2022. I'm sorry, this is too late. You asked them to leave the hall, please.
I think that's just sort of champagne.
Thank you, Lindsay. All right, getting back to business. Ordinance number 23-2022. This is an ordinance in the Lambertville City Code, 2014, chapter 4, police regulations, adding section 15, registration and maintenance of abandoned and vacant buildings. Are there questions about this ordinance?
This basically is being introduced to conform to the new state statutes.
Correct.
Okay.
May I have a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 23-2022, please? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? No, any opposed? There are no opposed. We're gonna think they're gonna say, you know, I think I just have one word. Sorry, there's no reason why we can't have a little fun up here once in a while. We so rarely get together, just a couple times a month. All right, next on the agenda is ordinance number 24-2022. This is an ordinance authorizing and encouraging electric vehicle supply service, 9 EVSE, and make-ready parking spaces. This ordinance will permit the addition of EV chargers within the city of Lambertville. After introduction from the governing body, it will be sent to the planning board this month for review to ensure that it's consistent with the master plan. Are there any questions about this ordinance? We finally got it on the agenda. This is largely boilerplate language taken from the state. We did have a couple of things that we specifically addressed, and I know that Councilman Sanders, I think you had talked about potentially looking at ways in which, in fact, just on the way here, I had a resident stop and ask me where getting an electric vehicle who do not have a driveway about this very matter. So the city is going to be looking into potential ways in which we are able to allow residents potentially to park cars on the street with EV chargers on the sidewalk. We've got some work to do on that one, but this really just aligns us with what's already been approved by the state, and this triggers all kinds of requirements for any development that happens, within the city. So unless anybody else has any other questions about it.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I've seen on, not in town, because they're very scattered, there are only a few in town, but on private property, on commercial property, I've seen charging stations that have a advertising billboard on them. So I don't know if this if this is the time to put something in. It's like a billboard, it's a big sign, a changeable copy or a backlit sign that promotes it as an EV station, and then advertisers can advertise on the sign.
And you're referring to private property that may be visible from the street kind of thing?
Like the park,
Yeah.
like a mall parking lot.
So I'm happy to look into that. I would imagine one, it's a question for the zoning officer, and there may already be some mechanism in place through the historic preservation, historic commission to address any kind of signage. And, but I'm happy to look. I don't know. I don't know the answer to your
Yeah,
question.
well, the HBC only it doesn't have purview on many commercial areas, overview.
Well,
Would the
everywhere.
city sign ordinance address that?
Yeah,
Probably. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot we have a turn.
yeah, there's a provision here that, for the installation equipment, that the site lighting and landscaping doesn't specifically say advertising signs, but site lighting and landscaping have to be in accordance with the city's zoning ordinances. So anything that, as Cindy said, anything that is installed have to be in accordance with the zoning law ordinance, but this specific ordinance doesn't address that.
Could we be more specific and have a sentence on that that specifically references signs?
If we need an amendment to the zoning ordinance, am I right, Bill? If we wanted to specifically prohibit it.
Also, I have to look at whether there's certain languages that we can't change. So I have to look at and see if that.
Okay,
I don't
that's
have
good.
that in front of me. Sorry.
So I'm a little bit confused because I thought this was just an ordinance that kind of gave us the purview to go forward with EV charging stations. And anything that talks about how they're situated would fall under zoning? Is that what we're saying? I'm a little confused about where Councilman Stegman's comment would work its way into the process. Do we know?
Well, Bill just answered, gave us what was currently in this one.
Well, signage, whether or not it's related, it doesn't say it's signage, and signage is regulated to zoning,
Right.
regardless of whether it's next to an EV park, spot or not.
Yes, okay, that's what I want to be clear on. Okay.
I think we'd have to address it in zoning because I don't think we have that specific use in there. Because there are people that use backlit or illuminated signs now that are don't comply with the current ordinance.
Well, that's an enforcement issue. I know that this happens around town. This is an enforcement issue. So I'm happy, I made a note here to ask the zoning, Ken Rogers, to ask what the language is, and I will report back on that.
Thank you.
And I would fully support, I think, any kind of restriction on advertising. We'll hang tight till I find out, please.
Section 5 as well. Section 5 of the ordinance also has language related to how signs are to be regulated, and that's boilerplate language from the state. Section 5.
Well,
Subsection signs.
well, maybe we'll have between now and then, I'll talk with the mayor. And it's turning into an outdoor advertising. a billboard advertising backlit at the EP station that promotes whoever promotes.
I have one question, might be not the most brilliant question ever, but in section D2, it says the condition of preliminary site plan approval, each application involving a parking lot or garage not covered in the multifamily dwelling section above has to do all these things. And I don't know that there's a, unless I missed it, a definition of garage. So does this apply to private, like single family residences as well? Garage,
Well,
or this
parking
is, are we
garage.
talking about the parking garage?
Well, I interpreted it to mean a parking garage, but let's see what the city attorney says.
Section D can't be altered.
Okay,
It's,
so-
it's part of the mandatory language.
So we can assume that when they say garage, they mean parking garage, not. If someone wants to put in a garage, they'd then be responsible to put it in a make ready spot.
Yeah, it says parking lot or garage. To me, those are coupled together. I think that the intent, I don't know, it just,
I think that makes the most sense. It's
Yes.
just slightly, it could have been clearer.
Bill, can we add the language to the definition?
If you see in D1, where it explains, it says application involving multiple dwelling or 5 or more dwelling spaces. So I don't think it would apply to a single family.
Well, the two, section 2 is for each application that's not covered in that section 1 above. I'm sure the intention isn't, I'm sure it's for parking garages, just. Because it says you have to install at least one make-ready parking space if there will be 50 or fewer off-street parking spaces. 1 or 2 is fewer than 50. So the lack of clarity here could someday cause an issue.
if you will, because this is taken from the state statute, parts of which you can't alter. I just wondered if elsewhere in the state statute, it may ask to fund garage, so.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to make a big stink about it, but.
If we
I
could
think it-
change it, it would have to be definitions, because we can't change that section. D.
Yeah, that's what I figured. If we can add the definition, right, then does that address your concern?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super concerned about it. I just don't want somebody someday to get overzealous and say, oh, you're putting in a new 2-car garage. You have to now.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because there are definitions in certain languages about a fence is a wall, and a wall is a fence. Because we're looking into that from the enforcement code, from the building code. And a fence is a fence, and a wall is a wall, and they treat them exactly the same as far as using one. So technically, someone could put a wall up around a basketball court 15 feet high, because in those cases, a fence and a wall are treated the same. So if we have questions about how we're treating what a garage is, if we could do something within the scope of what we want to do, I certainly wouldn't mind exploring.
We'll add the definition.
That's fine.
Oh, you can add it?
We can add it to the definition. We can't change section D, the wording in section D, but we can add the definition of garage or parking lot.
I just be careful that it's not used differently in different, you know what I mean, is if we put a definition in it, I'm not sure if it's used elsewhere.
I just saw that it relates to public parking lots and garages. That's not right from the statute, that's from summary of the
Okay.
statute. So I'll come back and confirm on that.
Great.
So the definition does give a description of private EVSC and publicly accessible. So, and the private says single and 2-family homes. So with that,
That's just private, that's private means restricted to specific users. So like a private homeowner could put in their own, and then it would be private, it wouldn't have to be available to others.
correct. Right.
Well, let's, sounds like there's an answer we can figure out.
Yeah, I think that's the concern.
So are people comfortable moving forward? Well, I shouldn't ask that question, right? Let me-
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, if so, may I have a motion? Sorry, I lost where I am. Yeah, to introduce ordinance number 24-2022
As amended,
as, in-
That's amended.
so we're gonna add the definition.
so we're gonna have that. Okay.
Okay, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Um, Next is ordinance number 25-2022. We talked about this last month. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, chapter 14, streets and sidewalks. Just updating an ordinance that probably needs some updating. So this is why we're doing it. This will define a penalty for those who do not fix their sidewalks and have been notified by the city of a trip and fall. So as you remember from last month, we talked a little bit about this. The old way we used to do this was to have the DPW apparently do it and then bill the property owner. That's not really a practical solution these days. So in order to have some mechanism to more than encourage people to fix their sidewalks, this will allow us to do that. So, any questions or comments from everybody? All right, hearing none, may I have a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 25-2022.
So.
All those in favor?
I,
Thank you. And the will of the public will have a chance to speak on this ordinance. Public hearing is scheduled for October 20th, 2022. Next is the ordinance number 26-2022. This is an ordinance authorizing the extension of the lease agreement between the city of Lambertville and Fisherman's Mark for use of a portion of the property owned by the city and located at 260 North Main Street, block 1002, lot 41. This is, as we know, we talked a little bit about this last month. This will be to permit the city to extend the lease with Fisherman's Mark for the farm market on the Clausen property for an additional 6 months, which would take it to the end of June. Are there any questions about this? Okay. Hearing no questions, I'd like a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 26-2022.
So moved.
Second, please.
second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and this will be scheduled for public hearing as well, October 20th, 2022. To review ordinances in draft form. An ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 10, Section 10 through 7, the rental housing units. We're still working on this language, right? So we,
Yes, we are.
and the second one would be an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014 to additional provisions for film and media. Do you have any?
Steve and I have, we did get some input from the State Film Council, had a dialogue with them.
Commission.
So, was that
Film commission.
Film Commission? Sorry.
That's okay.
So it's yeah, we wanted to have that dialogue. Steve and I will get together on that.
And I don't know if I asked this last time, have you, I'm happy to do this. I talked to Clinton Township, which has an ordinance in place.
There's a number of of towns that do. I have not, I don't know if you have, I have not spoken to Clinton. Montclair, or there's a bunch of towns that do have.
Would it be worth either my time, probably definitely not with Bill's time, but I'm asking you to do it anyway. Do you have any sort of ordinances that you're from other municipalities?
We have a couple of samples.
You're-
I think.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, we don't have any ordinances on second reading this evening. Of course, I'm sorry. You bet.
We've been in touch with one of the people who work on the New Jersey Motion Picture Commission, who work, and we've had conversations with them, and they have supplied us with current ordinances that other towns, just to answer your question, that other towns have used in the past. And that we had input on their suggestions about the process and approval process. We're
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that if I could help in any way.
Definitely.
well, you want to be in pictures.
No, thank you. Let's see, discussion. So we've already established we have no second reading ordinances this evening. We have one discussion item, valet parking. Recently, two businesses have approached the city to request valet parking for their guests. They would like to reserve and pay for up to 2 metered parking spaces so they can provide their customers with a drop-off or pickup location for valet parking services. So that probably pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just saying one more time. We have a couple businesses who really just want us to take away, I shouldn't say take away, reserve metered spaces in front of their restaurant. They're willing to pay the full amount of meters, but they want it as convenience for valet service to pick up and drop off cars elsewhere at an undetermined location.
Excuse me, is there reservation 24/7 or just for their hours of business?
I know at least one of them has requested specific hours of business. I don't remember the other one. Cindy, do you remember, was it? I don't know. One of them has requested specific hours on weekends and evenings, that kind of thing.
I have a question that they have not stated in this request, where this valet parking is going to take the cars and park them. We've had an experience with this, I think before you took office, where there was a business restaurant that did valet parking. And what had happened was the parkers would zoom, I mean, the drivers for the valet service would grab residential spaces where they saw them fit and park there. Or, so it's not so much having a pickup and drop off. Oh, it sounds like a Russian. It's about how are they running who is running the valet business and how are they going to not impact the neighborhoods?
Well, so in one case, I did have conversations with someone who represented a restaurant here in town as a valet service. And they initially wanted us to just, keep spaces open at a certain, on a certain block for public parking. I said, no, of course, right? I mean, we don't reserve public parking spaces.
People will be getting their lawn chairs out.
Right, but that, in that instance, they were trying to make arrangements with a private property owner to have a lot where the cars could be driven not far from the restaurant. The second business, I don't know what their plan is. Do you?
The one business that I spoke to rents 2 spaces from the city here,
Okay.
and that was their plan. Part of it.
Valet for 2 spots.
Well, they rented 2 spots for their employees.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I didn't ask when they rented those 2 spaces. but,
So were they talking about 2 spots or 4 spots?
2.
One was talking for 2.
Both, I believe we're speaking about two spaces. Is that right? Sandy? Is that right?
I didn't talk to the one.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Maybe we both talked to the same one. I'm not sure.
Well,
At
Do
any
they
rate,
need
so,
to come in and speak?
I mean, I'm sure we could.
I-
But even before that, I mean, I think that there may be some conversation that we have about, are we willing to consider that, right? So.
Well, we already-
Does it depend on the location? Does it depend on, so I'd like to hear from the council kind of just what their initial thinking is about taking 2 parking meters basically offline at certain times for businesses in town.
I just put something in. We currently have a business that rents 25 spaces here, Lambertville
Yes.
House, that they use to valet. However, they valet from their parking. So it's not taking a public parking space, and the spaces against the wall are part of that reservation that the Lambertville House has. So there, in that case, we're not losing any city spots. So the question is I think it's twofold. One, where are they going to park the car and move the car? And where are they going to pick up and drop off people? And it's not that I'm not, I think it's a great idea, but I want to be really careful about starting something that starts to decrease the available parking spaces in the city to provide a convenience to a restaurant or similar thing, similar setup
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that we'd be receptive to encouraging restaurants to be successful. So I'm inclined, I think it's a good idea. I guess I'm a little bit curious about whether we have an ability to restrict where they go. I mean, these people that are driving to go to the restaurant, they can park themselves at on a residential street. I mean, I am curious, I don't know how other towns handle this. Is a town permitted to restrict otherwise legal parking? I don't know the answer to the question, but it's, to me, that's an interesting.
Well, then,
Is it any different than a restaurant that puts a parklet in front of their business and takes up two
Well,
parking
we
spaces?
can control the issue
Yeah.
of whether we allow them exclusive rights
to
the
create a
spots.
loading zone or an
Yeah.
unloading zone.
Yeah, I mean, it helps the business succeed. It's probably good for people with mobility issues, there's, but you are taking away spots from other, businesses, but.
I think I think we could, it would help us make a decision if we knew exactly where these single-use drop-off points are.
But then if we were, long run, I wonder how much that matters, because if we were to approve this for one or two restaurants, then there's precedent that anybody else could ask for it, we'd be hard pressed to say no.
That's a concern for me, I will say, right
Yeah.
up front. I have a concern about opening the door to something here that,
However, there are currently 2 loading zones, or 3 loading zones in the central business district that are available to drop people off and have a very short.
during the daytime, right? Lieutenant, are those loading zones typically just during the daytime? So in the evening, people can park in those loading zones?
They're time designated,
Right.
I think the city has to be mindful if there's going to be restriction. I mean, if these restaurants are going to buy out the meters, that's fine. Because they're paying the meters for the time that they're using it. But if the city is going to restrict parking of vehicles by the valets in an area where those vehicles would park, like if that restaurant customer was going to drive around themselves and park in a residential neighborhood, they found a spot, they can do that.
Right.
Unless there's permitted parking. So if the city is going to restrict that, one, it's probably something that would require an ordinance amendment, because that car would otherwise be allowed to park if the owner of that vehicle had it. So if we're going to put in parking restrictions, those have to be publicly known, and if the city's going to enforce that.
Well, enforcement as well is an issue potentially.
So
right?
I missed something there. So if we're gonna enforce.
Basically, Bill's saying whether the valet parks it or the patron of the restaurant parks in a residential space, it's,
As long as they're parking.
kind of 6 to 1, half dozen the other.
It's tough to, I think, regulate that.
So,
Oh, yeah.
but when you think about where are the valet cars going to go, if I were the valet service, I wouldn't want my drivers just riding around looking for parking spots. How are you going to keep track of where all the cars are?
Well, but that unfortunately, I think that's a workaround, kind of, council, but it's not that, it's that, I think if we're gonna start something like this, we gotta like go through a process, do an
I agree.
ordinance,
I agree.
put rules and regs, kind of thing, and just have a conversation where we make sure that we don't make the situation worse for residents or pedestrians.
Or other businesses.
Yeah,
Yeah, or as the mayor said, we end up with every restaurant business or whatever, wanting to do this, and then we have all these reserved spots all over the central business district, and, people can't really park there unless they're patrons of a particular business.
And I would also add, I'm more than comfortable moving forward and trying to find a process if this is what the council wants, but one other point I might add is that and I didn't state this earlier, but, the restaurant, I don't remember the exact time, but the restaurant wanted the parking on, like 3 different nights between such and such hours. So who's gonna bag the meters? Who's gonna be responsible for making sure that the cars are out, that somebody didn't see the sign and they parked it, an extra 15 minutes, right? So there are some very significant logistical challenges to kind of this arrangement that I think that we should consider. Maybe we come back to this, maybe we have somebody kind of take a look at it with a little bit more time.
Well, it does look like there are other municipalities that have regulations around valet parking. So I would agree with, I think we need to have a study, thoughtful approach as to, what, rather than thinking about this on the fly. I think this
Yeah.
requires some.
I think there were, yeah, let's do that.
It may also be that given that so many of the restaurants are in pretty close proximity, that there's 1 or maybe 2 shared valet locations.
There is a valet that's operating, right?
There is what?
There's an already operating valet.
Yeah.
At one of the restaurants. Yeah.
Is that the one for us?
Which
It's
restaurant?
not taking up parking.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's not taking up metered parking. Actually, I guess there's 2.
Well, I think it's not so much about that. I think what they're asking for is a pickup and drop off zone in front of their restaurant. For valet, and that's part of our concerns. If we're going to do that, then it should be for any valet. It should be the pickup and drop off point for any valet service in like one place. Then you can't. It's I don't, as Councilman said, we've got to look at you as well. Man, we have to look at ordinances and see what works and what has worked and what hasn't worked. I've often said, I think it would be a great idea to have a valet service. Would be great to move the cars to the designated spot in an unused lot, private or public, most of them are private. But if we're gonna do, that's one thing. The second thing is, are we gonna reserve a space in front of every restaurant in town where they can drop people?
I think if everybody's okay with this, let's move on. I will take responsibility for noodling this out. As I'm ready to say, noodling. And I don't know why that came into my head, but there you go. I will take responsibility for considering this question and coming back to the council on it. So
It's a great subject.
No, it's
I'm glad it.
I love to talk about parking. All right, boards and commissions. So just a reminder to the public and anyone who's with us at home, how many people do we have online? 9. Oh, that's nice. That we will be looking for volunteers to serve on boards and commissions in the coming year. We do have some spaces currently available on the library board, and I'm not sure if this fills out the Parks and Rec, but please contact me or Councilwoman Lambert over here if you have any interest in serving on a board or commission here in the city. And this evening, I'm pleased to be able to nominate Alexis Behrens to serve an unexpired term ending 12/31/2025 on the Parks and Rec Commission. Alexis sent us a statement of intent and her CV, which was a wonderful read. Oh, and there she is. Hi. So are there any questions about this nomination? If not, may I have a motion to approve my nominations?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for your service, your future service. We're delighted to have you on board. Correspondence, following correspondence, I'm just going to read this in by title. We have JCP&L annual compliance filings for the Universal Service Fund Program. Again, JCP&L provision of basic generation service, JCP&L adjustment of rider RRC-RGGI recovery charge, JCP&L verified petition of JCP&L seeking review and approval of its deferred balances. And to mix it up, we have Elizabethtown Gas, their notice of public hearing on August 30th, 2022. Next item up is Fisherman's Mark. Fisherman's Mark wants to host an event for its sponsors on October 2nd, 2022, from 3 to 5 p.m. for approximately 80 people at the farm market. This request includes permission to serve beer and wine. I have talked to Jen Williford, the Executive Director at Fisherman's Mark, about this event. They are going to encourage certainly all their staff and all their people will park somewhere else to open up spaces in front of the farm market. And we may have a couple of people park elsewhere on the property. We have a very clear expectation laid that, you know, if they're going to end up parking sort of above the farm market, they have somebody there to help guide people to park in appropriate spaces instead of on the grass.
What are those appropriate spaces? Two questions. What are the appropriate spaces and can they are they selling the liquor or
No,
beer?
no, it's just a-
Just giving it
Yes,
out?
yeah.
Cindy, do they have to do anything?
Well, we will need to have a certificate of insurance that says on it that they'll be serving alcohol.
That's it?
But it's a park, and that's why it's before you.
Right, and I'm happy to.
Well, it's parking at city property. So I don't know if someone wanted to do something in this building and they wanted to have beer and wine, what regulations would they have to? What's the-
Same thing, certificate of insurance that names that they are serving alcohol. But our parks specifically, the ordinance for parks specifically say no alcohol. That's,
But it's not a park, Bill. Is there a legal distinction that's important here?
No,
They're
the
venting-
first part of what Cindy said is correct.
What?
The first part of what Cindy said is correct, that if they have the certificate of insurance, the city's the owner, they have a leasehold interest in the property. If they get insurance to do this limited event where they're providing it, not selling it.
Are they having bartenders?
I don't know.
Because of it, there's a tip requirement, not tip. But someone who doesn't serve alcohol as their job, or does or doesn't, I'm not quite sure the regulation, they have to know when to pour and not to pour. When not, I mean, we fill beer, there's no, we've had experiences with a local brewery here during one of the street events we did. And they had to be, and the servers had to be tip certified.
Would that be part of their requirement or one of the coverages by the insurance?
This is a private event, so I'm not sure I can look into that.
Private event, so he's not sure.
And by the way this reads, it'll be for invited,
Correct.
right?
It's for
It's
key-
not open to the public, right?
No, it's for
Okay.
key sponsors.
Mhm.
Of Fisherman's Mark.
And second
The
question,
second question is, I'm happy to.
Bartend?
No.
that was my second question.
No. I'm happy to, if the council is concerned about parking on the site, I was going to lay out particular areas where, you know, I've driven up to the side, I parked there for office hours. I'm happy to designate specific places for them where it's appropriate to park. So, you know, if the council would like me to, I can report back on that, on those exact locations. I can provide on a map or.
I don't, you know, yeah, if that's done, I don't think, I wouldn't need a report.
Yeah.
You what,
I don't need a report. I mean, if I think
you just have to have enough people on site to make.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, Jen is familiar with the, you know, the difficulty of parking, and I made it very clear that, you know, everything on the other side of the farm market is, you know, we've not made any arrangements for parking. There are a total of probably 4 or 5 clear parking spaces there, and then, you know, we have to determine, you know, is it okay for one car to park in the drive or whatever. So, I mean, I'm happy to continue this conversation. I'm happy to make a map with, you know.
It's just make a map, you can do a map for them, correct? And what time is this event?
It's 3 to, what does it say? It says 3 to 5?
Yes.
3 to
And
5,
what time? Oh, October.
October 7th.
just a Sunday afternoon.
I'm just trying to figure out how light or dark it is during those hours. That another. That's all, yeah. No. If it was in November, I would have more concerns because it gets darker early and they're walking on a piece of property that's not well lit, and you know, they fall and then we're liable. Whoever's liable is liable. This our piece of. the director have any input on?
And Brad, do you have any thoughts on this matter? Have you listened to the conversation?
Responding to me, but the parking issue, correct? So
Yes, yeah.
During this,
There's some parking issue up to the closet. No, I think you could entrust with it by speaking to the Fisherman's Mark and saying what area that they're allowed to park in. I don't have any issues with that. And along with the, the alcohol, we've never had a problem when we've designated certain spots in the city building before. So I don't see any issues with it. And again, if parking gets out of hand there, we can always address it for the event. If it happens, I know you'll be around there, and I know I'll get some phone calls on it. We can also address it then if that becomes an issue.
What day? Does somebody have a calendar? Can somebody tell me what day? Sunday. I'm happy to take responsibility to go up there if it would satisfy everyone's. I'm happy to be on site. If it's an issue, I'm happy to have further conversation about it or provide a map. Or
Yeah, I mean, I don't, my take on it is let them have a fundraising event with some booze, like.
That's kind of where I am as well.
One other question for public safety issues that people park. Is the crosswalk going to be, well, I don't even know if there's a crosswalk there. So people will be
There
running.
isn't, but we can make sure the cones are up, right, Lieutenant, and the little guy in the middle of the street,
Right.
we can do that for the event. Yeah.
I think we can, I mean, coming from me, I think we can entrust that they're renting the space from us and we set the guidance for them where they're gonna park. They're adults, we haven't had any problems with them before, so.
Oh,
we
okay.
trust-
Well, I'm not, it's one of those things where we haven't had any problems before because this is new. So the
Well, the
question,
everyday operations of Fisherman's Mark.
yeah, but the question is if on Sunday afternoons, generally traffic is heavier on 29 and, well, it's different on 29. And so the question is, are we gonna have this, if somebody crosses that street, are we gonna have it monitored so someone can stop traffic?
No provisions have been made to monitor. I specifically talked to Jen about crossing the street.
Yeah.
We did have a conversation about this,
Okay,
and she, ensured, I mean, she didn't ensure me people's safety, but she said, obviously, we'll be paying close attention when we cross 29. I'm sorry to giggle. I don't mean to make light of it, but we did have a conversation about crossing 29, and I think that.
Mayor, as long as you're willing to valet the cars,
are you gonna be parking the cars?
No.
And how about that valet?
I'm just gonna point.
Parking cars.
A point. If somebody gives me a shot at tequila, maybe. All right, can we, Councilman, you-
No, I mean, I hope they raise everything they have to raise, and I'm glad they're using the property, getting people on the property. I think it's a great way to promote one of the city's prime jewels that we own and manage. So I have no problem with it. It's all about public safety as far as I'm concerned. So
Okay.
if you guys are in agreement, that's fine. How do you become a sponsor?
Give them some money.
give them a lot of money. All right, so I would like to move on. I think we're. I hope
Thank you,
I relayed
Mayor.
any concerns we have about public safety at this site with these do-gooders. May I please have a motion to permit Fisherman's Mark to serve alcohol at their event on October 2nd, 2022?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
What's a do-gooder? Is that a rain gutter?
You never watch Wizard of Oz? Lots of do-gooders in there.
Okay, let's keep going, please. Porch street closures. This is a request from Penny Marshall of 100 and Bucks Realty, Wydell Realtors closed Cordell Street between North Union and George Street on Saturday, October 1st, from 12 to 6 p.m. for Porch Fest.
I think you said Penny Marshall was.
Did I say Penny Marshall?
Yeah.
Laverne is
Penny Marl, I'm sorry.
Well, I paid to see that one.
No, that's a Fisherman's Farm.
That's, even her brother could come.
So does it matter that Penny's no longer a resident of the community?
She works for 100 Bucks.
So it's okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Wait a minute.
That's the only street that's closing?
Yeah, no, you.
No, we did
approved
this
the
last month. We closed off Pines Court.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is just an addition to.
Oh, it's an additional street.
Yeah.
How far?
All right.
We need to vote on that.
Well, Coriel, between North Union,
And George.
Coriel, that's where their office is. Yeah. I just want to bring that forward, that that's applied to their offices.
Well, it sounds like they probably want to host a Porch Fest location.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Maybe it'll be musicians.
May I have a
Well, I think
motion?
that's it.
So moved.
Second.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
All right.
I would say
I was waiting for you to say aye.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So that's, a motion carries. Just a couple of other things. The Honorable Shirley Turner, Senator, correspondence in response to the adoption of the resolutions opposed to the New Jersey DOT Rockfall Project and State Health Benefit Plan. So, good news. Once again, we're aligned with Senator Turner. What issues?
Bad news for the budget, but yeah.
It's very bad news for the budget, but since Snickers, the man who's on his way out. Oh, gosh, okay, and I do want to make a note that we did get a letter from the Commissioner of DOT in response to our conversation and my request to initiate, install a right-hand turn lane on Route 179 coming down the hill. And they're going to do that, which is great, I think. So that's good news.
I just have, that's great. Is that where the little island is? I don't, well, they're gonna show us a plan, right? Wasn't there something?
No plans.
And can I ask a follow-up DOT question? Since you're in touch with them, what are they doing with putting the arrows down, taking the arrows up, blocking the, what's going on 170?
You know, I have to get back to you on that with the real answer. They were doing, they did have work planned for this fall on that stretch of 179. I think what's happened here, I'm happy to, I'll want to clarify, because I haven't been able to get in touch with them in the last couple of days since they started this new bit
I'm
of
getting
work.
asked questions.
There is a stretch of 179 that had work scheduled for this fall, which also included new curbing along the west side of 179 from Washington Street down to Grant's Alley. Is that the next one down? Yes, to Grant's Alley. So you know there was work scheduled there. I think what happened was, you know, maybe they just had some scheduling. I don't know, they just aren't paying attention to scheduling essentially.
It
And
would be nice to
no, absolutely.
understand what they're actually gonna do before they do it and then scrape it up and then do it, and scrape it up again.
I agree with you, Council President.
So-
I
So
think
they've
that would be
already-
lovely, because I have 3 emails from residents on Connaught Hill who are like, what's going on here? Right, yeah, the crosswalk is gone, and I will say for the record that I'm slightly concerned because, you know, now we're back to school and there are children who use that crosswalk.
Oh, the crosswalk is gone too?
It's been blacked out, so they're
Isn't
doing some
that-
slurry seal and so forth, so I will follow up with them tomorrow and see if I can get a clear answer about how quickly, whatever there is.
Well, if they could give us
Yeah, it's,
an
Status.
answer, because you're getting
status.
you're getting the emails and I'm getting people when I'm out and about asking me what's going on with the arrows.
no, I agree, I did not get to it in the last day or
That's
two.
okay.
And I did walk up to Connaught Hill this morning with my dog very early and, you know, had to dash across. So I'm aware of it and I will find out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They did. So it'll be good news once it's all done. So announcements, just to go through a couple of these, as everybody knows, most people know, the city of Lambertville is seeking an interest in a redevelopment opportunity for the Clausen property. Interested parties should complete the request for expressions of interest packet, which can be found on the city's website at www.lambertvillenj.org or by contacting the city clerk. cityclerk@lambertvillenj.org.
Mayor, can that be shared on our Facebook page?
Sure.
And does that be sent to the 5 or 6?
It has been shared on our Facebook page.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
I went on it for the first time. It's very nice. As far as outreach goes, I think it would be great to forward this to the area realtors directly to the brokers who own these companies in our general area as an outreach to them, because they're pretty much I would think, involved with clients that may be looking for something.
Okay.
So I don't know if that comes from the city or,
If I can get a couple of emails, I'll just send a note out, right? I mean,
And they
is it-
have them from the CRS.
Okay.
And they,
oh, yeah, you're right. That's the emergency contact list.
no, what, the CRS is something different, but we have that Realtor brochure that we send out annually, so I may have some. And if anybody else has anybody that you'd like us to send that to, please just send that contact information to me and we'll see that they get it back.
Because we do have a really extensive list of business owners in town that we use when we reached out about changing the ordinance to make it easier for businesses to open. And maybe that's a list we can.
Okay.
I'm trying to open up the
Yep, absolutely.
universe.
Right.
It's in, you have that list. I mean, I think,
It's in MailChimp, we can just, it's already set up, we can just send it out.
What is it?
We'll
It's
prepare
a plan
Oh,
in the letter. DOT says they're gonna send it. I'm sorry.
oh, okay. Yeah, well, we never got a plan for the last one, so. maybe I'm just wrong.
For the list couple, it just showed up.
Yeah, they just, yeah, like nice in the night.
okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for that. That's great.
Good. Convenience center hours, I'm just gonna say as noted, so please note that convenience center hours, electronic recycling, Saturday, November 19th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the American Legion. Electronics only, and microwaves.
I'm really looking forward to that, by the way.
I know,
Yeah,
it's a great event.
Of, some things that,
Yeah, yeah. Is it a question, Mayor?
Yeah,
Is it, if one has petroleum products that they're trying to recycle, is the date for the county?
I don't know that offhand, but we'll see if you have it to us. It's on the county site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we had posted it one time on our site, but it's been a while.
We announce it when we know when it's gonna be, but yeah, there was one in the spring, it's typically one in the spring.
Yeah,
December 10th,
Thank you.
what is it?
December 10th.
December 10th.
December.
No, I'm just, you've got like a pulling rabbits out of hat, this wonderful.
Yeah, wow.
It's the internet.
Oh, is that over the Google?
It's over the
She
Google.
went to the Google
Over
machine.
the-
It's over the Google.
All right, let's keep moving, please. We have just a couple more things to do. Not to do, but to public participation. So now is the moment we've been waiting for to open the meeting up to public participation. So just a reminder, because I don't know if you were here, if you're interested, are you interested in speaking publicly?
I just wanted to know what date that you mentioned was the electronics.
Oh, okay.
December 10th.
Oh,
Well, that's
no,
a-
November.
Yeah, it's on the city website. It's
Great,
November.
Electronics recycling, November 19th.
At the American Legion.
They're 10 to 1.
Right, but is there anybody in the world of the internet who would like to participate?
We have Laura with her hand up.
Okay, Laura, if you could state your name and your address and proceed with your comment or question, you have about 3 minutes, please. 3 minutes.
Oh, she put her hand down. Now we have a Carol Berman. Oh wait, Paul Stevens has his hand back up.
All right.
All right. Paul first.
Good evening again, Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry Street. I had a couple of comments on some of the things that came up tonight. Valet parking, one thing that has not been considered in your discussion was the practical implementation of it. You have to consider what it does to traffic, all right? Yes, when one car comes off in the 2 parking spaces to go ahead and get valet parking, that's fine. But the problem is there are going to be more patrons that want to valet park if they're successful with this. If you look at most valet parking at successful restaurants, there are long lines for it. Imagine Broadmoor having valet parking and Under the Moon having valet parking at the same time, both very successful businesses. You're going to just kill traffic on Union Street on a Friday night, on a Saturday night. You're going to back up the lights. You're going to have people that are partway through the light and the light turns red and nobody else can get through. it's going to be a logistical nightmare, in my view. Okay. Just please keep that in mind when, you're starting to think about this in more detail, because if you look at the places that are doing it now, they both have the pickup sites well off the streets, and even they can back up. All right. In terms of the electric vehicle ordinance, I know the public hearing is going to be at the second reading. One thing, though, you were talking about tonight was you were relying on other ordinances through zoning and planning and so forth to address some of the concerns. The one thing I would point out in the ordinance is section 3, repeal of prior ordinances. And it states all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent with or in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed to the extent of such inconsistency. Sounds like state boilerplate, you're probably not going to be able to change. So you have to keep in mind getting everything in here that you might think some other ordinance is going to take care of. And then the final point I'd like to make is I think it's great that there's going to be a right-hand turn only on coming down on 179. One question I have with regards to that is comment, I guess, more than a question, is I hope that the state doesn't decide to get rid of the yield sign that's there. I mean, the yield sign helps get people through that intersection that are trying to make a left-hand turn off of 165 northbound going on to Bridge Street. If that goes away, it's going to be, once again, it's going to change the dynamic in town in terms of people trying to get onto Bridge Street in the morning and in the evenings and that sort of thing. And those are my comments about tonight, and things to keep in mind.
Thank you, Paul. I will certainly add your comments about valet parking to my list of things to consider. We'll certainly look carefully at the EV ordinance. I'll have a conversation with council about that just to make sure that if there are things in that ordinance that may conflict with existing zoning, that we're looking at that well before next month. And the right-hand turn lane, I have the letter from the commissioner. There's no mention of changing the yield sign there. Certainly, we can follow up on that, but
And now that we're discussing it,
just a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's my, I'm gonna look at it again, but it's my impression when you come down the hill, there is a right-hand slot to make a right-hand turn. Does this mean they're gonna have a right-hand turn at the light as well?
No.
No.
So then I thought we had, in that case, I think we have a right-hand turn lane.
No, you can also go straight from the right lane too.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You can also go straight from the right lane, and that's part of the, I think, part of the problem with the.
It's a significant part of the problem.
Yeah,
According to my
it
conversations
is.
with
You're
Lieutenant
never
Brown.
quite sure.
So I'm
You will not be, the only way you will be able to travel southbound through that intersection is if you're in there will be one lane. The left, what is now the left-hand lane will be the through lane. The right-hand lane will be the right turn only lane.
onto Bridge.
Onto Bridge.
Mr.
So-
Stevens' point is to not make it a stop sign, is to continue with the yield sign, which I would agree with, but, something we'll have to talk to DOT. It hasn't been part of our request or part of their plan. We can talk about it.
Well, I would also note that I did have a long conversation, I'll try and keep this short, with the owners of the gas station who have seen many of these accidents while they're actually at public gas. And they were, they thought that the right-hand turn lane was a good idea, but that ultimately perhaps what was really necessary was traffic light with a delay, right? So you've got a green light, right turn only, whatever. So maybe something that we have to go back for.
It would be great to see this.
Well, so I would point out that, this is the Bureau of Traffic Engineers. I mean, this is what they do for the state. I don't mean to, these are supposed to be experts. They are experts, I guess. So I think that this is I think this is better than where we were. And I think that if we need to look at it again, they've been very receptive so far to the city of Lambertville this year, I think. So I'm happy to continue to write to the commissioner if we have more concerns or questions.
Yeah, and if our police director could weigh in on this at one point, inform the I'm very visual, I can't visualize this, so.
I just, I don't want to get lost in this, the fact that this is, to me, this is a huge win. And there's lots of reported accidents here. I've seen a couple, I think really changing that right lane into a right turn only is going to be a really good thing. You know, maybe there's additional things that can help, but.
Yeah.
I think it's a really-
That's why I asked the question whether this is at the light or this is to the, just at the island where you get to make a right-hand turn as well. So if you're gonna have that little loop avoiding, you know, there is a semi right-hand only turn because you, in front of the liquor store, there's an island there. So that's why I asked the question, is this at the light or is this at the island?
Start at Franklin Street.
It starts at Franklin Street, so the right turn lane will curve in, and you will not be permitted by striping lines or whatever to move toward, you know, to the left of the island there, right? So.
Oh. Okay.
So, yeah, it'll be abundantly clear
When we
what
see-
the lane is, right? As you come down, the striping will curve you into that, into Bridge Street. So, and there'll probably be, you know, big yellow right in front of it, you know, whatever, so.
But that's still, will people be able to make a right on North Franklin?
Yes,
I mean, to do that little hook thing there.
I think it might be better to wait until we get something from them, because
I would
there's a
hope-
lot of speculation that we just don't know what the plan is yet.
Right.
Because they referenced the plan that they want to provide
that's right, their plan.
in their
We didn't get
letter.
a plan last time, but I'll ask for the
We're
plan.
gonna ask for a
I'm
plan.
gonna ask for the
I think
plan.
they said they were gonna give it something.
Well, they said this time, I don't know that they said they were gonna give us a plan last time, but
Oh, they did.
I'll double check.
They did give us a plan, but they redacted most of it.
Okay, if there are no other
No,
questions.
we have
about
one
that.
more. We have other questions.
Oh,
Laura?
gosh, what?
We have Laura waiting.
Oh, Laura, I'm sorry, I forgot where we were. It's like, Laura, would you please state your name and your address and proceed with your comment or question? Thank you for your patience, Laura.
Oh, that's quite all right. Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Laura Holcomb Sheehan. I actually live in Vernon Hills, Illinois. I wanted to ask, make a quick plea about the Clausen property, that before it goes on sale in the public market, is it possible for me to get in touch with the National Society of the Colonial Dames of New Jersey to see if they want to sponsor it as a house museum? I would love to see it turned into a historic house museum.
Okay, is that the end of your question?
Yes, I don't know if there's any possibility of pausing to see if it may be turned into a museum and if they're willing to sponsor it. They own a couple historic homes in New Jersey. Yes.
Sure. So Laura, what the council's considering, or what the council's been talking about recently specifically is the former homestead market. I don't know if you're familiar with the site. Certainly, if you wanted to send me your email address, Mayor Noack at lambertville.nj.org, I'd be happy to send you an overview, a map of the site. What we're talking about currently is the farm market, which is part of the site, 8.5 acres. The council has not begun to discuss, nor has it made any determination about what to do with the buildings on the site, the historic Holcomb House, the barns, and the Clausen family log cabin. So we haven't made any, we've had no conversation about the status of those buildings, and at some point we will. You know, I think in the meantime, if you'd like to have a conversation about it, I'm happy to talk to you about it and connect you with people who may be interested in having a conversation with you.
Wonderful. Sounds good. I'll be sure to attend future meetings. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Is there anyone else? Okay. We have a motion to close the public comment period, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, we will go into closed session. Do I need a motion for that?
Yes,
May I have a motion to go into closed session at this time, please?
to discuss
To dis-
issues related to potential contracts pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12.7.
Oh, gosh, I'm
And
sorry.
there is there action anticipated after?
There's no action anticipated after the closed session, so the public is welcome to head out. You can rejoin us if you want, but we'll only be adjourning following the closed session.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of going into closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. we're in closed session.
What if I didn't return that?
Speakers.
We're, really just signing this is the audits.
Yes.